how we live our lives. Forcing certain people to act out certain ways.
Well, the first time I ever did Patty was the beginning of last summer, and it was sort of a joke. It was Hollywood night, and everyone was going as different movie stars, and I really couldn't think. I mean, I thought I looked like Elizabeth Taylor, but nobody else did, so I thought, well, I'll just go as a young, aspiring actress. So I sort of built up this persona as Patty, and everyone really liked it. I'd get calls at work, ask me if Patty was going out. It sort of kind of got scary, because then it was like, all right, now it's like people talked about Patty as if she were completely separate, as a separate person. And the one thing I did notice is that nights I went out just as me, not as Patty. You know, I just was one of the gang, where the nights I went out as Patty, people would always stare, and if I had to walk through a crowd, people would move out of the way. You know, I could get up on stage where just if I went as myself, I would never get up on stage or anything like that. Beginning of the summer, I used to not be able to walk down the street unless I was assisted by, 3 other people. And now it's like, hey, I don't care. I walk down the street, and I do it in the daytime if I feel like it, and it's fun, and, people don't even bat an eyelash in this town. That's the sad part, is if you're doing it for attention, you're not going to get it, because nobody even notices that you're any different. So Fantasia Fair came to town. They have, like, workshops for transvestites. They're all usually older married men, 6 feet and up, who dress like church ladies. It's sort of a hoot that, there's all these big, huge, ugly women in town that week. A couple of the different events that they had were like scarf tying workshops and voice coaches and things like that. They had a fashion show on Tuesday that I went to, and that was a lot of fun. It was like really wild to see, like, 74-year-old guy up on stage in a evening gown. Well, Friday night they had their ball, and I wore this gorgeous black velvet dress. And as I was coming in, this guy, this very Portuguese, Spanish kind of looking guy, he was walking out and I was walking in. So I gave him the once over, and smiled, and he sort of smiled back and left. And I'm dancing with these women, friends of mine. And this one guy comes over when I get off the dance floor and tells me I look really beautiful. And each time he sees me out, I get better looking. So I thought, it was nice. Then all of a sudden I look over his shoulder, and there's this Spanish or Portuguese guy staring at me off the dance floor. So, of course, I got on the dance floor and danced a little bit more. And when I got off, he came over to me and said, I looked really good, and what was I doing tonight? And I said, well, I'm here dancing with my friend Marie, and then I'm going home. And he said, oh, no, you have to come home, you have to spend the night with me, because I'm a fisherman, and last night I almost drowned because our boat got washed ashore. And there was a storm the night before, and a boat I had read in the morning paper did get washed ashore, a shipping boat. He's like, oh, I almost drowned last night. So I kind of felt bad for him, and I thought, well, it sounds sort of romantic, like, let's maybe celebrate life together again, But I was like, could turn out to be like looking for Mr. Goodbar's Psycho. So, well, first of all, I'm a guy. And he said, yeah, you teach me. So then he started wanting me to give him a kiss. Give me a kiss. And I was like, no. He grabs me by the waist, puts his arms around my waist, grabs my ass, pulls me into him really close. So, of course, I was protesting. And I said, no. And I grabbed his biceps, and that was it. He did not show off the body that he had under those clothes at all. This guy had what a body. So, of course, I started fantasizing about him hoisting nets and throwing big boxes of packed mackerel around. He didn't want me to teach him anything about me being a boy. He was not interested in me as boy. I mean, it was his first time, I think, having sex with a guy, let alone with a guy in a dress, with a drag queen. What I think is that he liked what he was seeing, and I could pass for a woman, so that's what he was seeing, that's what he wanted. It sort of turned out to be like, let's reaffirm our both being alive. And it was just like, it was passionate, it was not wild. I mean, it wasn't deviant sex at all. I mean, it was just very spontaneous and passionate, and of course his accent and his, dark hair and dark eyes and his biceps and his thighs. I mean, it was incredible. The only weird thing was I had to keep the dress on because I didn't feel comfortable taking it off. Because I don't think he was interested in my white, hairy belly.
It must have been about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
It was about 4 o'clock in the
It was
morning.
beautiful out.
Dennis and I were leaving a party at a friend's house.
My girlfriend and I were walking down the street.
But we had a couple blocks to walk
We
together.
were going to take some pictures.
Dennis was really drunk and fooling around and blowing kisses and being silly. And this was getting me really uptight because there was a whole group of kids hanging around at the corner, sitting on cars, causing trouble, making noise. Dennis and I walked, and Dennis fooled, and one of the kids from the group left them and started walking our way.
A guy just came out of nowhere.
I watched him out of the corner of my eye
I don't know where he came
as
from.
I tried to calm Dennis down.
And I thought he was there to steal a camera.
I tried to let Dennis know that this guy was really making me nervous. But he thought I was making it up and wouldn't listen to me.
He got really close in my face.
The guy showed me he had a knife.
So I put my hands in front of me.
It was then that I really went wild with Dennis, saying that this guy was trouble, that we should run.
Tried to push him away.
I kept saying, Dennis, you have to take out your whistle. Blow the whistle. And he kept saying, oh, you're overreacting, you're overreacting.
My friend got very nervous.
I said, Dennis, I'm running. This guy's coming after
He
us.
just started hitting me in the face.
I started running.
Then he started punching me,
Finally, Dennis started running.
punching me in both my eyes.
And the guy ran too.
He
He
was just all over me.
ran after us
He
for
must have hit me in my shoulder, my nose,
2.5 blocks
my eyes, the side of my head.
with his knife out. All the way up to Dennis's front door.
And the last thing I remember is laying on the sidewalk,
The whole time, me screaming to Dennis to blow the whistle.
just trying to get on top of me and hit me more.
I couldn't believe it. I had to hold the door shut while this guy tried to push it in. Dennis was fumbling, trying to find his keys. He kept pushing the door, and finally,
My friend finally jumped in between us.
Dennis got the door open.
She was just standing over me so he wouldn't hit me anymore.
We ran in and ran upstairs and called the police.
These two people called the
And
police.
that guy hung out in front of the house,
My nose was bleeding.
sitting on a car for about
I couldn't see out of either eye.
almost an hour,
I just stood there.
and the cops never came.
I was about 16, and I was dating a girl named Holly. She was a sweet girl. I loved her, but not physically. I mean, my feelings for her were mostly cerebral. I didn't really have very many physical longings for women. I guess this came across to my parents. They thought it was awfully strange that Holly and I weren't hitting it off better. My parents took me aside one day, and they said, you seem really troubled by this. And we talked about going to therapy. This guy that I had was really good. We used to meet in his office, and it was usually in the evening, and sometimes we'd talk on the phone, some nights for hours, And I never thought anything really strange about it, except that he would always want to talk about sex. One night I was particularly distraught. We set up an appointment at a motel, which was his idea, and I thought it was awfully weird, but I kind of knew, because you know what's going to happen when somebody says, well, why don't we meet at a hotel, We didn't talk at all. His attitude was like, well, you know why we're here. So he just took off his clothes and, got on top of me, and he just sort of, raped me. After that, I just told my mom and dad I just couldn't deal with it. I was like, forget it, I don't want this therapy thing, it's not going anywhere. And they just didn't even think about it, I never really told them why. Years later, when I finally told them I was gay completely, they couldn't believe it. The first thing they wanted to do again was send me to therapy. My father, that was the first thing that came out of his mouth, was, I know the best psychiatrist in this field who can convert you back to being a straight man. This woman is like the top U.S. government psychiatrist responsible for curing thousands of their homosexuality, mostly sons and daughters of, government people who didn't want their sons and daughters to be gay. And I just laughed and said, no, thanks, Dad. I've done that. I've done that psychiatry thing.
I don't feel guilty. I don't feel guilty in that aspect of why wasn't it me. When I met Jack, he had AIDS. I was who I was with Jack, and I didn't treat him as a person with AIDS. I treated Jack as another person. He was my lover, but I didn't think of him as anything different. He was very special to me. He was, he was my friend, and I treated him accordingly. In a way, I'm glad I didn't treat. Why should I have treated him any different? I mean, I was going through my growth and development, and if I ended up fighting and yelling with Jack, then that was allowed. And I think that Jack really got into that. I think he really loved me for that because I didn't treat him like with kid gloves. It wasn't until he was in the hospital and wrapped up with all of the machinery and plugged into the respirators and all the tubes that were in him that I started to really see the picture that he was sick.
All the time when I was growing up, my father wanted me to go to law school. It was all that he ever talked about. One summer when I was 16, I discovered his minister's son. My father came home early from a business trip and came out on the patio and caught me with the minister's son. And all I heard was the sliding glass patio door slide open. And then I sort of looked up, and then I saw the patio door slide shut. My father and I never talked about it. We never, ever had a discussion about it. Not long after that, my father stopped talking about law school completely. But a few weeks later, my father started bringing me charcoal pencils and sketch pads and art books and wanting to, take me to gallery openings and things like that. When I graduated from high school, we were discussing my future plans. Going to law school never came up. I always thought that my father's whole conception of things was that if I had to be a fag, at least I should be an artist.
I'm living my life, and I feel good about it. It's hard, it's very difficult, it's very painful at times, but that's part of it. It's also very joyful, and it's also I feel it's very real, which is very scary.